Okay, so last thing we're going to do for our site is we're going to work on the navigation. So at this point, we have kind of all of our basic styles. If we preview this in Google Chrome, we can see all of those basic styles. So we might need to do, see how I left the purple in the background of the slider. So I probably need to take that background color off. And you can see that I've got a fixed picture position. And if I make it bigger or smaller, it's going to fit and be bigger or smaller. So it looks pretty good. Now I'm not totally done with some of the text and adding some fake events in here and whatever. But for now, we just need to do this last piece of styling and the rest is just minor tweaks. Okay, so what I have in here is just a basic unordered list. It's all the way out because it doesn't have an indent because we had a global selector in here that took the margins and the padding and all the other kind of stuff. The problem is if I were to add an unordered list here, if I go to insert and choose an unordered list, come on. Okay, there we go. See how it's like way out there? So I can do list, 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 etc. And same thing here. If I were to do an unordered list, come on, and then do list, list, list. So we want to add that indent in, but it's going to do it to all of, if we come in here and do OLUL, oops, cancel, didn't want to do that. Okay. So if I do plus and I can say all OL and UL should have a margin on the left of 35 pixels, which is good because that's what it actually should have in order for it to look normal. But I want this list to look normal and this list to look normal, but I don't want this list to look normal. I actually wanted it to be all the way out there. So in order to do that, then I can click on this one and say plus and say any UL that's within the LI should have a margin of none. So I'm going to close that and then do margin on the left should be just 0 pixels. So see how it goes back, but it doesn't affect these now. So you always want to create a rule to affect the majority of them. And then you get more specific saying this specific UL in the nav. So since this isn't in the nav and this isn't in the nav, it's not affecting those ones. So this one is affected on its own. So I want to do that, and I actually want to put all the rules for the nav like right next to each other. So you can see I'm trying to, the more specific it gets, I'm going to put it down there, and you can see that these are all in order so that it's easy for me to find. So that's the only thing I need to do for the UL. And then if we're looking at the code for this, you see that we have a UL, and then we have list items inside of it, and we actually need to make all of these links. So I'm going to bring up my properties panel, which can be found in the window menu if you don't see it. And then I've docked it or dropped it here so that it's a permanent part of my workspace. So if I click in there and go to link and type hashtag, oops, just the hashtag, because I don't know where this is actually going to link right now because I don't have the other pages created. As you can see, it's turning in blue and it's giving them the underline. And we need that because these are actually going to be links. So I'm double clicking, and for each one of these, I am putting a hashtag. And technically you could just, copy this and paste this because there's no real difference here. Okay, so if we go back in, and I do want to show you that. So now you see that we have the unordered list that's in the nav. We have the list item that's in the unordered list that's in the nav. And then you have the A that's in the list item that's in the unordered list that's in the nav. So seeing that sort of nested structure will help you when we're creating our rules. So the next one we want to create is the next nest. So we have nav, we have nav UL, now we need to create nav UL LI. So we'll hit nav UL LI. Don't use capitals or spaces. It should be the actual tag. So we're saying any list item in an unordered list that's in the nav section. So it's not going to affect any of these LIs because they're not in the nav section. So now if we come in here, we can say add a couple of rules. So just to see what this is doing, I'm going to add yellow to the background. I'm probably going to take that away later, but I just want you to see, okay? So now we can see the text a little bit better. And the first thing we want to do is go to text and say list style type and choose none. That's going to take the dots away. And then we want to change the display of it. So we'll go to layout and choose display. So right now it's pretending, or it is a block level element. And so it's stacking automatically. So we actually want to display it like it's inline so that they sit left to right. So this is giving us a lot better, this is what a nav should look like if we want it to go horizontal all the way across. If we wanted it vertical, we wouldn't have to do the inline. Okay, so I do want the nav. I'm going to go back to the nav and I'm going to add some padding in here. So I'm going to do some 5 pixels padding. Maybe, actually I'll do 10 and 10. So that has a little bit of space away from that slider. All right. And I can do 10 pixels on the margin if I wanted to, and that will create a gap. So that's easier if you were to put a background color. If I were to put a background color of green right now, you can see where the nav is happening. So I'll just leave that in there so you can see it. So on the list item, now what we can do is we can actually push them away from each other. So I want to do, let's say, oh, that's my nerdy phone calling me. That, yes, you did hear that right. That was a Harry Potter theme. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 20 and 20. So as you can see, that makes it 20 here and 20 here and 20 here. So the gap between might be a little bit big for me, but we're actually going to center this. So we can go to Nav, text align, and choose center. So there we're getting the center alignment. All right, so we could add some padding, and that's going to help us out just to see like how it's behaving. So let's go to layout and choose padding, and I want to do like let's say 7 on the top and 7 on the bottom, and I want to do like 15. Actually, I want to do like 35 on the left and 35 on the right. So now you can see where the yellow is the actual list item. So we have 7 and 7, but then we have this really big padding on the left and right. So now we're seeing that the more button-like list item. All right, so now we need to style the A that's in the LI, that's in the UL, that's in the nav. So let's do that. So we're going to hit plus and do nav, UL, LI, A. Okay, so basically we're saying any link that's in that, we're going to style it. So normally they're blue, and if you don't want it to be blue, and I don't want mine to be blue, I can come up here and say the text color should be black for right now, and I'm not sure. If I end up making these look like buttons that are white, then black looks good. If I end up making these not buttons and they're sitting on black, then I need to make the link color look white. And I want to choose text decoration none, because normal links are going to have an underline. And where that might be fine down here, I don't want that to happen up here in my buttons. And I can do other things, like I actually want to do a text transform, and I want to say if it's a link, I actually want it to be all uppercase. And yeah, okay, yeah, wait, okay, I want it to be that, okay. All right, so I think this is looking pretty darn good. The only problem is if I were to go and preview this in Google Chrome, it's going to show that those link, but I want them, where the heck? But I want, when I roll over, I want them to change color. So you can do change color, you can change font color, you can do all that other kind of stuff. So it's called a pseudo class selector, and it's basically the same thing. It's nav ul li a colon hover, and see, these are all pseudo class. So if something is active, if you're hovering over it, if you visited it, if you are, if you've checked something, there's a lot of them, but mostly we're just going to use hover. All right, so when I hover over it, let's say I want to make the background pink, okay? And again, I'm just designing this disgusting so that you can see, and I'm going to change this font color to white when I hover over. See how it's not changing anything? So let me preview this in the browser. And once I get it set, then I can, I don't know why it's doing that. Come on. Now you can see how it has like a, like it's, but it's like really small. So what's happening there? Well, if I go to A and I choose a background color of blue, you can see what's happening. So I need to add the same padding in. So 7, 7, 35, and 35. So 7, 35. I'm just hitting tab to get to each one of these. So this is 7, not 77. Good Lord. And then this one is 35. 35. Okay. So I need to take those back out of the list item. This is where I always get, I'm going to get rid of all that padding. Okay, there we go. So now we got rid of all the padding that was making the list item bigger. So now if we preview this, real-time preview, Google Chrome. Oh yeah. Okay, so now when I hover it over it, you can see that not only does it turn pink, but the text turns white. So now I just need to take all that ugly out. Now, if I wanted it to look like a bar, like let's say I wanted this bar to actually be white, then I can make the nav bar white. And then let's say the A, I don't want it to look like any color. I just want it to be, so I'm going to take the LI background out. And so now when I come over to hover, maybe I want it to hover and I want it to turn black when it hovers, and therefore the text should be white. So let's preview. Every single time, that's so weird. So now that's looking a little bit more coordinated with the rest of my design. But what happens if you don't want the nav bar? Well, easy. You can get rid of the nav background color, and then you just have the text. So obviously for the A tag, I need to come back in here and change the text color to white. And it's still going to have that hover. So if I wanted it to, I can hover that color. Let's see, the background color. I can make it, let's do that. That's not a bad color. And preview. Yep. Every single time. Okay. So there you can see that there's just a hover. Now, if you wanted to make them look like buttons, then on the A tag, you would add a background color. So we're going to come in here and do a background color and do teal, but maybe a lighter color teal. And preview, Google Chrome. What did I just do? It's opening something weird. Okay. Real-time preview, Google Chrome. I think I tried to print code. Okay. So now you can see that it looks more like buttons. So I probably need to add some spacing with the nav if I do that. And last but not least, maybe we don't even have background colors and we just have font colors. So right now it's white, and when it hovers over, it's going to turn, we're going to just do some, well, we'll probably do orange to match the background. So this will be like our October theme. So real-time preview, Google Chrome. So now when I hover, it just changes color with the link. So that's creating basic CSS navigation. You can create a bar, buttons, or just basic links. You do need to have some kind of a rollover so that we can easily see. You don't want to do something like when they hover, it gets massive and kind of shifts things out of focus. So don't make it annoying, but you want to do some kind of subtle thing so they know that it is in fact clickable. And you also want to balance your padding and margins. So where it looked like a nav bar, it looked really good, but now it just feels like a lot of space up here and a little space down here. So I would have to come in here and adjust that nav margins and padding and spacing. So I might want to do a margin down here of like 15 to give it a little bit more space, and maybe I want to do less of a padding on top so that it's a little bit closer to the logo, etc. So now we've done our first basic layout, and now it's just time to keep practicing and getting more complicated with your layouts and just trying these things, because remember, your code doesn't change. All your rules can be deleted, and you can try again. You can also show to see what you've set, and you can also hit disable to see what happens when you disable it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are getting rid of it. So I can uncheck to bring it back.